A horrific Muslim terrorist attack in San Bernardino, California. Stay with me for this half hour, and you will learn more here about what happened and why than in every other news broadcast you have watched. I promise I'll deliver. I'm Randall Terry. This is Voice of Resistance.
Those who forsake the law praise the wicked. Those who uphold the law resist them. Welcome to the Voice of Resistance. Here's your host, Randall Terry.
Motive. What was the motive for Muslim 28-year-old man Syed Farook and his 27-year-old wife Tashfeen Malik, who have a new baby, 6-month-old baby? What was their motive? They had pipe bombs. They had pistols. They had long guns. They looked like the people who attacked at Charlie Hebdo in Paris. What was their motive? CNN saying, we're not sure what the motive is. The federal government on the ground, well, we're considering if it was an act of terrorism, but we're not sure. We're still looking into motive, knowing full well that they have never released all of the documentation that they have for the Chattanooga, Tennessee shooter. Think about it. He was studying the Quran and the Hadith. These people, they had motive. And on today's program, I am going to show you what the motive was. But for me to be responsible to you as a viewer, I want to give you just a quick bit of backdrop to show the wickedness, the evil of certain people in positions of power to distract us from the motive of what drove these two Muslim terrorists. Obama was in the middle of an interview with CBS. We're going to show you an itty-bitty clip. He's the president of the United States. He already knew that they were pursuing Muslims, okay? But he got out front of the discussion. If it had just been, this is about Muslim terrorism in America, then we would all be focused on domestic policy, international policy. But instead, Obama comes out with this.
That they don't happen as frequently. Common sense gun safety laws, stronger background checks, and for those who are concerned about terrorism, we have a no-fly list where people can't get on planes, but those same people who we don't allow to fly could go into a store right now in the United States and buy a firearm.
God forgive us for electing this man. Do you see what he's doing? He is driving the discussion. Now, rather than focusing on Islamic terrorism, we're focusing on gun control. These people bought these guns legally in California, which has some of the toughest gun laws in the nation. So Obama is now, again, being the Muslim apologist, the defender of Islam, but this time he doesn't have to stand up and say, we don't have to discuss Islam, that's not what this is about. He got out ahead of it, knowing that the FBI and the local police were looking at Muslims. He got out ahead of it and said, well, really what we need to discuss is gun control. All right. According to various reports, Farook, the man, was either born here or in Pakistan. He's from a Pakistani family. His wife was also Pakistani. She was in Saudi Arabia. They did some kind of online dating. He went there, brought her back, and they had a baby, okay? People, again, described him as a devout Muslim, but not somebody who talked about his religion a lot. He started to grow his beard recently, full beard. And one of his fellow workers said what we've heard over and over, quote, he never struck me as a fanatic. He never struck me as suspicious. Motive. Now, they had tactical gear, okay? This was not a spur of the moment payback for some quibble that happened at the Christmas party. They were planning this for some time. They were just looking for the opportunity. And evidently, they felt that they found it when all these people were in a room. 14 dead that we know of so far. There's other people that are in critical condition. Both terrorists are dead. Originally, there was discussion that there might be a third shooter. Somebody is in custody. We don't know exactly what is happening. The David Bodick from the FBI is embarrassing. He actually, this is being discussed right now at the highest levels of our government, whether or not Obama and his cronies will give him permission to say the truth. That this was inspired by Islamic terror. There are people who are taking issue with our thoughts and prayers are with you. Again, distracting us. Of course, our thoughts and prayers should be with the victims and with their family. The cover of the New York Daily News, God isn't fixing this. Well, I would tend to agree. We need to pray like it all depends upon God, and we need to work and fight like it all depends upon us. Now, if Obama wanted to get ahead of it, he could have said, if all of those people who were in that room were allowed to just carry a firearm with them, most of them would still be alive, because they would have been able to shoot the man and the woman who were shooting them. So the discussion that we should be having right now is whether or not we should allow more Muslims into the country. That's the discussion that we should be having. Okay, she came in legally. Forget the illegal border situation. She came in legally through Saudi Arabia, which is the #1 financier of terrorism in the world. We need to be discussing having targeted surveillance at mosques. That's the discussion that we should be having. But instead, we're discussing gun control and whether or not God answers prayer. God save us. The brother-in-law saying, I have no idea why he would do this. How could you not know? This is a lie. He would have an idea. It's called reading the Quran, reading the Hadith, which we're going to do after I take a break. I'm going to show you what motivated this couple in plain English. And we can bury our heads in the sand, or we can accept that somebody who takes these words at face value has all the motive that they need. Thanks to friends like you, we have state-of-the-art cameras and state-of-the-art teleprompters and state-of-the-art gear here in the studio. We have one big need, however. We have not yet been able to upgrade our computers. The computers that we use for a television broadcast or to create a documentary are not like the kind that you can just go buy at Best Buy. They are expensive because it takes so much horsepower to create TV series and or documentaries. So I'm asking you, if you want to see this show grow and you want to see us finish the What Would Muhammad Do series, help us get these computers. 3 computers that we need right now are going to be just shy of $20,000. That's the kind of horsepower that we need. Go to the GoFundMe page you see right there. Watch the pilot for What Would Muhammad Do? And if you like the show, give us a gift. A radical ideology. We don't know if these Muslim shooters in California were radicalized or were they in contact with ISIS. People who make statements like this have clearly never read the Quran and the Hadith. Farouk's brother-in-law could have said, you know, he's been reading Al-Bukhari a lot lately, been reading Sahih Muslim, and come to think of it, he was reading The Reliance of the Traveler. There's a big section in the Sharia law about jihad, and he was reading those things lately. No. I have no idea what would motivate him to do this. And so we have deceitful Muslims, presidents, heads of state saying that ISIS, other Muslim terrorists, these 2 folks do not represent Islam. I'm going to read to you some Quranic verses and some hadith. Those are the words and deeds of Muhammad that are not in the Quran, all right? And this is the stuff that Islam is made of. You can choose for yourself. And by the way, I want to read to you a quote. Forgive me. I'm going to read to you a quote from ISIS. There are so many Muslims that are saying that Islam is a religion of peace and that Muslims are called to be at peace. And ISIS has been fairly aggressive in saying, no, Islam is not a religion of peace. So they released a lengthy article in their magazine, Dabiq. Of course, you probably know ISIS is hashtagging how wonderful this is, not taking responsibility, just saying 3 Muslim lines. So ISIS wrote an article about Islam and a rebuke to Muslims and to infidels like President Bush and President Obama who say that Islam is a religion of peace. Here's the opening paragraph. There is a slogan repeated continuously by apologetic Muslims when flirting with the West, and that is their statement. Islam is the religion of peace. And they mean pacifism by the word peace. They have repeated this slogan so much to the extent that some of them alleged that Islam calls to permanent peace with infidels. How far is their claim from the truth? For Allah has revealed Islam to be the religion of the sword. And the evidence for this is so profuse that only a heretic would argue otherwise. The evidence that Islam is the religion of the sword is so profuse in Islamic literature that only a heretic, a Muslim heretic, would argue otherwise. Let's look at some of the passages that ISIS is talking about and that these Muslim terrorists were reading. All right, this is from Sharia law, okay? Jihad is a communal obligation for every able-bodied man who has reached puberty. By the way, the Sharia law also states that women have an obligation for jihad as long as they believe that if they are captured, they will not be raped. If they fear that they're going to be raped when they're captured, then they should go ahead and ensure that they are killed, that they do not surrender. So women also are urged to participate in jihad. I continue with the next quote. If none of those concerned perform jihad, and it does not happen at all, then everyone who is aware that it is obligatory is guilty of sin if there was a possibility of having performed it. It's from the Reliance of the Traveler. This is Sharia law by Shafi'i. Guilty of sin for not having fought in jihad. Sharia law states the objectives of jihad. The Caliph, Muhammad's successor, makes war upon Jews, Christians, and Zoroastrians until they become Muslim or else pay the non-Muslim poll tax. The Caliph fights all other peoples until they become Muslims. And Muhammad's Quran teaches jihad, holy fighting in Allah's cause, is ordained for you Muslims, though you dislike it. And it may be that you dislike a thing which is good for you, and that you like a thing which is bad for you. Allah knows, but you do not know. That's the words of Muhammad, in the words of the Quran, dictated by Muhammad. Jihad, holy fighting in Allah's cause, is ordained for you Muslims, though you dislike it. And maybe you dislike a thing which is good for you. Jihad is good for you. Sharia law says that if you don't fight in jihad, it's a sin. Motive. I'm going to take a break, and when I come back, you're going to see that this is the tip of the iceberg. When you start to see the body of Islamic jurisprudence, thought, Quranic verses, Hadith verses that call for what these two did, you need search no further for motive. Christians must be involved in government, period. If Christians weren't involved in government, we would not have a United States of America. And there have been brilliant Christian minds over the centuries, such as John Locke, who is called the philosopher of American liberty. He was quoted by Clarence Thomas in his recent dissent on the homosexual marriage decision. If we don't understand John Locke, we don't understand the founding of America. I want to send you this book and my book, The Sword, subtitled The Blessing of Righteous Government and The Overthrow of Tyrants. I want to send you these two books for a gift of whatever you can afford. Pay the $8 shipping and handling, which does not cover our costs, and then give a gift of whatever size you want, and we'll send you these books. If you cannot afford anything but the $8, can't even afford that, write us a note, and we'll send them to you for free. I want you to have these books so that you can be better equipped to fight in the political arena. Come on, order them today. Motive. What if someone really believes the words that I'm about to tell you? Do they need any other motive? First, here's Almighty God according to the Quran. Jihad, holy fighting in Allah's cause, is ordained for you Muslims, though you dislike it. And it may be that you dislike a thing which is good for you and that you like a thing which is bad for you. Allah knows, but you do not know. Here's another passage from the Quran. They, unbelievers, desire that you should disbelieve as they have disbelieved, so that you might all be alike. Therefore, take not from among them friends until they fly their homes in Allah's way. In other words, until they become Muslims. But if they turn back from Islam, then seize them and kill them, the infidels, wherever you find them, and take not from among them a friend or a helper. People who worked with Farouk said he was quiet. I never would have thought this from him. I never would have thought he was an extremist. Well, he's been ordered to not take them as friends. Period. So how would they know? What was he going to go up to him and say, I've been reading all these verses that I'm supposed to kill you. Now, I'm still weighing it out. But here's another one. Another verse from the Quran. So when you meet in fight, jihad, in Allah's cause, those who disbelieve, smite their necks, till when you have killed and wounded many of them, then bind a bond firmly on them, take them as captives. Thereafter is the time either for generosity to free them without ransom, or ransom, according to what benefits Islam, until the war lays down its burden. Thus, you are ordered by Allah to continue in carrying out jihad against the disbelievers till they embrace Islam and are saved from the punishment in the hellfire, or at least come under your protection. That's verse 4 of chapter 47. Hundreds of verses like these in the Quran call for jihad and terror against infidels in order to establish Islam or subjugate and eliminate all other religions. Terror. Over and over. I will cast terror, Allah says, into the hearts of disbelievers. Or then he commands his followers, strike terror into their hearts so that either they become Muslims or so that they seek your protection. Thousands of hadith record Muhammad calling Muslims to jihad. All right? Muhammad said, and again, this is not in the Quran, he said, I have been commanded to fight people until they testify that there is no God but Allah and that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. If they say it, they have saved their blood and possessions from me. This is from Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. Those are two hadith collections, and this one is quoted in Sharia law. Do you see what it says? I have been commanded. This is Muhammad saying that God himself commanded him to fight. I've been commanded to fight people until they testify. There's no God but Allah and that Muhammad is his messenger. That's the profession of faith. If they say it, they have saved their blood and possessions from me. One of Muhammad's men, I'll read the quote. This is from Sahih Bukhari. A man came to Allah's apostle and said, instruct me as to such a deed as equals jihad in reward. Muhammad replied, I do not find such a deed. And then look at this one. One who died but did not fight in the way of Allah, nor did he express any desire or determination for jihad, died the death of a hypocrite. Those are the words of Muhammad. There is your motivation. This man did not want to die the death of a hypocrite. And his wife didn't want to die the death of the hypocrite because hypocrites in Islamic theology go to hell. As we'll see when we come back, he was banking on a promise from Muhammad about his blood causing him to go to heaven and to be forgiven. Friend, this TV show represents a mission. It's to be a voice of resistance to the evil in the land, but also to inspire people like you to take a stand at any level that you might be able to equip you, to inspire you, to challenge you, to give you the rhetorical ammunition that you need. But we still have to pay bills. This program, as you know if you're a regular viewer, we don't spend a lot of time raising money. We don't spend a lot of time saying, oh, you need to buy this and we're going to run. No, we're bringing you a message, but we still have bills that we need to pay. I'm asking you, if you have been blessed by this show, to please go to our website or send a check to the address you see on the screen or call the phone number that you see on the screen and use your credit card and to give $50 or $100 or $500 just to help us meet our normal expenses. And we'll keep bringing you this hard-hitting show. What were the motives of this Muslim husband and Muslim wife who committed these acts of Islamic terrorism? Well, Allah promised, and Muhammad promised special status for the jihadists who were killed in battle. They are honored by Allah not as just warriors, but as martyrs. They're rewarded with paradise, musk, and the men, well, they're honored with multiple virgins for sex in paradise. Allah has undertaken to look after the affairs of one who goes out to fight in his way, believing in him and affirming the truth of his apostles. He will either admit him to paradise or bring him back to his home from where he set out with a reward or his share of booty. That's the spoils of war. If a person gets wounded in the way of Allah, he will come on the day of judgment with his wound in the same condition as it was when it was first inflicted. Its color being the color of blood, but its smell will be the smell of musk. Over and over, Muhammad said to his followers, if you are killed in battle, your blood is shed in battle, in jihad, you're made a martyr, and when you get in front of God, the blood will begin to run again, but it'll smell like musk. It's an aphrodisiac, right? This is about sex in paradise, okay? I didn't make this stuff up. These are their words. Don't be offended at me. Muhammad made promise after promise after promise for his so-called martyrs. Let me give you one where he sums up what Allah will do. Truly, the martyr is given by Allah Almighty 6 things. Forgiveness of sins from the first drop of his blood to be shed. 2, protection from the torment of the grave. 3, safety from the greatest fear. In other words, the day of judgment. He won't go to hell. 4, receiving the crown of veneration, a single sapphire of which is worth more than the whole world and its contents. 5, marriage to 72 of the wide-eyed virgins. And 6, intercession on behalf of 70 of his relatives. That means that he can pray for his relatives to be spared on the day of judgment. Right, these are the incentives, people. Here's your motive. All you have to do is look at this man's digital footprint and see if he was reading these hadith, these Quranic verses or ones like them. And you've established the motive. He just wanted to be like Muhammad and go to heaven.